Something pretty intense is going down in the Caribbean Sea right now. We're talking about the U.S. seizing oil tankers, and Venezuela calling it flat-out piracy, a prelude to war. So today we're going to break down exactly how we got to this dangerous boiling point, and what it could all mean.
Okay, so let's be clear, this is way more than just a diplomatic disagreement. We're talking actual helicopters, elite forces, and ships being seized out on the open water. And if you want to understand just how serious this is, you only have to listen to how Venezuela is describing it.
Yeah, Venezuela is not holding back at all. They've labeled these U.S. actions theft and hijacking. And look, that's not just some diplomatic protest. That is basically an accusation of state-sponsored piracy. And it just sets the stage for a massive international conflict.
So you might be wondering, what exactly happened to get this kind of explosive response? Well, as it turns out, this wasn't just a single incident.
The speed of this escalation is, wow, it's really something. It all kicked off just 10 days ago with this incredibly dramatic raid. We're talking elite U.S. forces literally rappelling from helicopters to seize a tanker. Then on Saturday, a second ship was taken over by a Coast Guard team. And right now, as we speak, a third vessel is in active pursuit. This is not random. It's a clear, coordinated, and very aggressive campaign.
Okay, so let's flip the coin. How is Washington explaining all this? I mean, these are pretty dramatic moves. Well, they have a very specific legal argument they're leaning on.
According to a U.S. official, these seizures are not random acts of aggression at all. No, they're supposedly part of a targeted legal strategy, one that's aimed at a very specific type of ship.
And here is the key phrase that the entire U.S. case hinges on: a dark fleet vessel. Now, this isn't just any old oil tanker. The U.S. alleges that these are ships operating in the shadows, actively trying to hide who they are and where they're going. And why? To get around international sanctions on Venezuela's oil industry. And remember, those sanctions were put in place by the U.S. to try and cut off the main source of cash for the government in Caracas, which Washington doesn't see as legitimate.
So, to boil it all down for you, the crucial point from the American side is this: these are not military attacks. They are legal actions. They're arguing that the ships are breaking the law, that they're using deception, like flying a false flag, pretending to be from another country, and that the seizures themselves are authorized by a court order. So from their perspective, it's all just law enforcement.
But, as you can probably guess, that is not how Venezuela sees it. Not even close. They don't see law enforcement. They see an act of aggression.
And this really gets to the heart of the whole conflict, doesn't it? We have two totally opposing stories. What the United States is calling a legal operation to stop illegal sanctions evasion, Venezuela is calling theft and hijacking. There's no middle ground there at all. And Venezuela is cranking the rhetoric up even further, turning this from an economic fight into a military one. They're not just saying it's illegal, they are calling it a provocation and a prelude to war. That is a direct warning that this could blow up into open conflict.
But here's the thing. These tanker seizures, they're not happening in a vacuum. To really understand the stakes here, we've got to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Because this is all part of a much larger pressure campaign that's been building for months.
Just consider all the other pieces on the board right now. The U.S. has its largest military force in the Caribbean in decades. We've heard the president threaten a total and complete blockade. The Pentagon has already been striking alleged drug boats in the same area. And all the while, you've got some American politicians openly calling for regime change and even talking about potential land strikes inside Venezuela itself.
And this wider pressure campaign, it's already turned deadly. As part of those anti-drug operations I just mentioned, the Pentagon has reported striking 28 boats. The result? More than 100 people killed. But here's the crucial part. No public evidence has been offered to back any of this up, which raises some really serious questions about what the rules of engagement are in these waters.
So all of this brings us to the one central question that lawmakers in Washington themselves are asking. What is the real endgame here? Is this really about stopping sanctioned oil shipments? Is it about cracking down on drug traffickers? Or are these tanker seizures the very first steps in a much larger strategy for regime change? The official answer is, well, it's unclear. But as the warships patrol and the tension keeps rising, the whole world is watching to see if this showdown in the Caribbean is going to stay a legal dispute or erupt into something far, far more dangerous.